All right, everybody, welcome to the 1016 Man Podcast. I am your host, pseudo-host today, Marty Ellis. I'm here with Nathan Betts. Nathan Betts is a husband and a father, a pastor and apologist for, is it Highland Community?
Yeah, Highlands.
Highlands Church in Renton. And then we've got Scott Walker, the Anglican priest, Anglican Warrior. He's been on before. He also is a firefighter. He obviously husband and father as well. He is a real estate agent, has his own business. He has some nasal strips, Sendia Crest. He can explain a little bit more later if necessary. But anyways, he's doing a lot in the community, and he also does some work with men. And yeah, so it's been great to get to know him, get to know Nathan a little bit this morning, and then we'll get to hear more. But these two just come to address Christianity in our culture, and they'll go into wherever they go. But yeah, I'm happy to have these guys here. I'm actually going to leave the conversation just beyond the outskirts as these guys engage. It's good to see men in this space and really just trying to hash out what it means to be strong Christian men within our culture. So, gentlemen, thank you for coming on today. And God be with you and you guys' conversation.
Thanks, Marty. How's my mic here? All right. I guess I'm on speakerphone this morning.
Yeah, and just make sure you're into here.
Yeah, teaching old dogs some new tricks, brother. This reminded me, Marty, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but when we first met, Nathan, what'd you say, that was 16 years ago?
Yeah.
In Anglican parish outside of Toronto, and you were pretty much doing Christian formation and apologetics and worldview and all right in your wheelhouse. A couple things. I was struck by your humility, your grace, and your integrity. So I'm not blowing smoke here, brother, but I was like, man, that dude is so mature for his age, way more mature than I was. My filter isn't always the greatest, as you know. So I feel a little more comfortable in a bunker gear than I do a clerical collar. So that's kind of where I'm at. But this reminded me, and I don't know if you remember it, we were doing a morning prayer, and I hadn't prepared a homily. And the other priest that I was working with said, after the readings of the scripture, he said, hey, I hope you're ready. I was like, ready for what? And he's like, you're going to give the sermon. No notes, no preparation, no nothing. It kind of reminds me of that. But hey, it turned out all right, and I think I was reminded of someone who said, I think it was John Wesley, you should be able to preach, be ready to die, or what was the other one? At any moment. Like, you should be ready to preach or ready to die at any moment. I was like, all right, here we go. Yeah. So anyway, enough about that. Man, so glad to have you on. Yeah. And it's been a pleasure to know you through the years and stay in touch and, see you become a husband and a father. And how many children do you have now? I can't keep
track. Yeah, we have 4.
Man, God bless you guys. Thanks for coming, brother. So let's just get her kicked off. What does it mean to have a Christian worldview? Is that even a term we use anymore? Is that kind of dinosaur? I know a lot of postmodern people would be like, no, it's not that. What does that mean? What does it mean to, as a Christian person, to view the world through that lens?
Yeah. Well, first, man, it's such a pleasure to be on with you. So, Marty, huge shout out to you for this. And thanks, Scott, for just this dialogue. It's, years ago back in, Burlington, Canada, and then now on the other side of the continent, south of the border, south of the Canadian border. It's interesting. Worldview, I would say, so my perspective that ranges particularly from having just over a decade traveling across the continent and further afield across the globe. Worldview is a word that some would say is antiquated.
Yeah.
or just simply not used. Like I remember when I haven't written for them in a while now, but when I wrote more consistently for the Seattle Times, I'll never forget the editor for the op-ed page, when I had my first piece accepted there, he said, "Hey, can you give me a byline?" Which is like 2-sentence bio. And in that, I said something along the lines of, Nathan's interested in, the Christian worldview. And he wrote back, he said, "Yeah, that word is not going to work. It's opaque.
Yeah.
No one understands. So let's try again." And that was refreshing. It's like, people don't really use the word, but for all intents and purposes.
Yeah, that's my, I'm like, what do we call this?
I think something that tracks for everybody, irrespective of religion or like lack of religion, spirituality or no spirituality, is perspective. What is your perspective? Now, in a sense, we're talking potato, because that still corresponds to what we're thinking of when we're thinking of worldview. Worldview is simply the lens, conscious or subconscious, through which we view the world. And that means everything, like how we view love, how we view beauty, how we view evil, how we view good, how we view ourselves, how we view the world. And pretty much you just name it. What is our perspective? Mm-hmm. What is the lens through which we view these things? And so here's the thing is, everybody has a worldview. Now, does everyone call it that? No. Is everyone aware of it? No. But it's sort of like, it's just that lens. It's that lens that we have that we might not be aware of, but we still have. Mm-hmm. I think of worldview in the same sense of like for someone who wears glasses, and I don't know if this has ever happened to you. It's happened to me, particularly with sunglasses. Sometimes I lose my sunglasses, and I'll be looking, hey, where are my sunglasses? And my kid, one of my kids might say, "Daddy, they're on your head."
Yeah.
And the idea is like, that's the same sense of our perspective on the world. Our worldview is something that, we're not necessarily looking at, but we're always looking through. Now, a Christian worldview, Christian perspective on life, I found really helpful. This 4-grid thing that actually Ravi Zacharias put together is every worldview has 4 pieces. In other words, it has to answer 4 questions. And the 4 questions are origin, meaning, morality, and destiny. So every perspective, even for the person who would say, "Hey, dude, I'm not Christian, I'm not religious," or for the person who would say, "I'm more from an Eastern faith tradition," every perspective has to answer the question of origin. In other words, where do we come from? Who made us? Where's our start? Who made the whole thing? Who made the cosmos? Meaning, what's my purpose in life? Where will I find satisfaction? Where's my value? Where will I find value in this life? Origin, meaning morality. Morality is the whole idea of, ethics of what is good, what is evil. Actually, is there anything such? Is there evil? Is there such a thing as evil? Or is it just semantics? Are we just doing wordplay here? And also, who decides? Says who. So if you say something is evil, well, I don't think that's evil. Who's the arbiter of that? Who adjudicates those things? Every perspective has to answer the questions of origin, meaning, and morality, and then destiny. Yeah. Destiny is all about what happens in the end. Is there hope in the end? Is there a ticket out of this place? What's the exit plan? What happens at the end of my life? Is there anything at the end of my life, or is it zip, like boom? We're all just sort of going to the dirt, or is there more to life?
Right.
Is there life after death? So I think anyway. Let me just stop there because I feel like I'm just going on here.
No, it's great, man. I love it, man. What about how do we know that we have a particular? I'll set up a. How do we know if we have glasses on or not? I feel like this particular culture has, for lack of a better word, catechized us to such an extent that we don't even necessarily know how any of those 4 categories have been absorbed by us in our daily whatever you want to say, how we view the world, how we view ourselves, how we view good and evil, how we view morality, how we view where we're going. There's a incredible pressure or environment that we're kind of swimming in that we may not even know that is impacting us. And it's taken for granted, like, this is the way we are to see the world. This is right, this is wrong. And you start digging and you go, well, why? I'm reminded of, coughing at the same time, we're synced up. I was reminded of, you know who Terrence McKenna was, kind of a hippies revolutionary, I believe in the 70s or 80s. But this story really landed for me in terms of how we can be influenced and impacted by a particular way of seeing the world without even realizing it. And I'll just tell a story, and then you can go off of one of those 4 grids that you were mentioning about. Two young fish are swimming in the water. You may have heard this one before. I sent it in an email but let her rip. 2 young fish are swimming in the water, and this older fish goes swimming by. And the older fish says to the 2 young fish, "Morning, boys, how's the water?" And the 2 young fish keep swimming, and one of the fish says to the other young fish, "What the hell is water?" Right? Like, I don't even know what he's talking about, because this is just what I'm used to. I have no other way of stepping out of this water, because I can't view it from the outside. But this older guy knows what he's talking about, but we don't. This is just my environment. This is literally the fishbowl that I'm swimming in. And so, maybe address that a little bit, the challenges of that. How do we, as disciples, as followers of Christ, say, wait a minute, what is the water that I'm swimming in? How do I, and is it even possible to remove ourselves from that?
Yeah, I think so. I love that story because it's exactly what, like, it just fits our cultural moment.
Because a lot of times in the church too, we think, no, I view the world through the scripture or through this great tradition. And it's like, are you sure about that? And I say that to myself as well, but go ahead. You were going to say?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is a line by Os Guinness. Os Guinness is a social commentator, written tons of books now. But he has this great line where he says, contrast is the mother of clarity. And when I apply it here to what we're talking about here, how do we know our views are the same? How do we know our views are different? Well, we find out by actually contrasting what I believe to other people and seeing, are there any differences in finding? So let me just back up a second. Particularly when we're thinking of worldviews, particularly when we're thinking of faiths, perspectives, how do we know which is which? How do we know which one is true? How do we know which worldview, which faith, which perspective best explains reality? We find out by actually putting them next to each other, contrasting them and seeing. And what Oz goes on to say is, when you contrast different worldviews, when you contrast different faiths, you see that there are differences, and the differences make a difference. So I think that's part of it. Now, that's still high level. We're not getting down to actually granular details yet, but it's still a very helpful principle. Because if there isn't that the contrast work, then it's easy to see, then it's extremely easy to get into this view like, oh, dude, we believe the same thing. Like, you believe that, and I believe this, and so what? It's like, hold on a second. No, actually, maybe what you believe is different to mine. But we only actually understand those differences when we contrast. So anyway, I think that's the starting point. Contrast is the mother of clarity. Thank you. Yeah.
So when we talk about perspective, I think a lot of times in the West, we think of that as an individual's perspective. I guess sort of the thing that I've been really struggling with lately is like, okay, this is the way I as an individual view the lens by which and through which I view the world, and you and Marty and someone we work with at a fire station or in a real estate office or at a football game okay, so that's an individual lens. How does that relate, or how does that contrast, or how does that, when you zoom out and look at the entire culture, there's this sort of collective belief in the culture as well. And so I'm not sure quite how to think that one through or out, but what does it look like when an entire culture adopts a certain way, a certain perspective of seeing the world, of viewing the world, because it changes. So the individual perspective versus the entire sort of, whether that's a culture of a state or a nation, and how do those two relate, and what?
Wow, what a big question. Okay, can you explain the question again?
I think of it in terms of, not only the individual's identity, who am I, where am I going, is there morality, but collectively, who are we? Where are we going?
Yeah, I mean...
So not only who are we as an individual, but who are we collectively as a nation? And where are we going? What is our shared morality? Because all this divisiveness and division that everyone talks about, it's like, well, yeah, where is that coming from? Where is that going? Who are we? Not only who am I, created in God's image and likeness and worthy of love, dignity, and respect, but who are we culturally? Where are we going? Who am I? What's holding us together? What is it that holds us all together? What is it that holds us together as an individual? What kind of perspective do I have as a person? But what kind of perspective do we have collectively as a state or a nation or whatever, however that manifests? And it appears to me that we don't really have a lot of answers to either one of those. I don't know who I am, and I don't know who we are, and I don't know where we're going. And, you had mentioned before when we started, what's the future of Europe without God? What's the future of America without God? Well, we're not really going to answer that question. Let's just get along and have some vague, we all feel good kind of optimistic future. We're getting better. Civilization is advancing. Technology, rah, rah, rah. It'll all work out. Will it?
Well, I think that, okay, let me make a start at this because I think it's such a big question. And I think, okay, where do we start? Well, part of it, let's start where we are. We'll start, here in America. One of the big things that we think of, I think globally, when people think of America, they think of the word freedom, a free society. Well, it's helpful to think and just sort of peel back the onion. What does that mean? What does it mean to be free? And for many people, what they think of when they think of freedom, and not just what they think of, but actually how they live it out, is freedom means doing whatever you want, whenever you want, however you want. And that's a big part of actually why we find ourselves in such a mess right now. Because that's not actually the definition of freedom. That's anarchy. When we see people like torching down, cars and buildings, we don't look at that and say, now there's freedom. No, we'd say that's anarchy. It's not freedom. Freedom has been defined as, and I remember reading Os Guinness's book, Free People Suicide, and it's wonderful. It's not that big of a book, but in the book he talks about the idea of freedom. But he defines freedom as the power to do what you ought, which I think that's not Os Guinness' definition. That goes back hundreds and hundreds of years. But when you think of that as freedom is not doing whatever you want, whenever you want, but actually the power to do what you ought. Now, all of a sudden, you get into, well, how is that possible then? How can I do what I ought to do? Because, you go back to even like Paul, I do the things that I don't want to do, and I don't do the things that I want to do. How do we get there? And very helpful in that same book, Free People's Suicide, Os Guinness talks about what he calls the golden triangle of freedom. Golden triangle freedom is freedom requires virtue. Virtue requires faith. And then you go back to freedom. So in order to have freedom, in other words, the power to do what you ought, you need to have virtue. But where does that come from? Virtue doesn't come just sort of in the air. So this free-floating value, it's actually rooted in faith. And so now the thing about America that we see now is more and more it's looking more like a police society. Cameras, not to get all like George, Orwellian here, but you see a lot of cameras, someone is watching someone, and the thing is that the likelihood of that going up and increasing happens in a world where virtue is going down. In other words, laws increase when the virtue goes down. When the virtue is higher, you don't need to, so to speak, you don't need to have the cameras there, because there are people who say, hey, we shouldn't be going through that traffic light. No, you shouldn't be pushing that person. Why? Because it's rooted in virtue, and the virtue actually comes from faith. Now, of course, in America, we would say that virtue is not, it comes from faith, it comes from the Judeo-Christian worldview. It's not just, faith, this ambiguous bubble of some, belief. It's actually faith that's rooted in the Judeo-Christian tradition.
So what would you say would be kind of, and feel free to answer this however, but when we look at how we define freedom as Americans, how would you define freedom in Christ or in the gospel? Because it feels like it's almost like it's drifted downstream from that, and the freedom that we think as Americans is freedom is kind of untethered from that foundation, which when I look around, I'm not, the sky is falling, but the foundations are cracking. And so like we have this idea of freedom that's in the culture, that's people's perspective, but it kind of sounds like, and this is what's so dangerous about some of these words when we lose the definitions of what those words actually mean, because words mean something. It's like when I hear freedom a lot of times, and from an American perspective, I'm like, that's not freedom. Those are chains. That's not freedom. So what is the freedom of the gospel? What does Christian freedom look like compared to sort of the pop culture understanding of American freedom?
I think of when I think of freedom through a Christ lens, through a Christian lens, through a scriptural lens, I think of it in terms of salvation, in that we are, I think I'm mixing my philosophers here, but it does mix into what's happening in the scriptures. And the reason why I say mixing philosophers is because I think of Isaiah Berlin, who talked about freedom to and freedom from. I think it's very that's strikingly similar to what happens when we encounter Jesus and freedom in Christ and salvation, in that when we are freed in Christ, we are saved from sin, the things that bind us, the things that are out to destroy us, the world, the flesh, the devil. And we are freed to. So there's a negative view of freedom. We're saved from, we're freed from, and then also freed to. In Christ, we are freed to live freely, live the way we're made to live, live with hope, live with integrity. So I think I think you can run that out, but I think say, yes, you have the idea that I mentioned of Isaiah Berlin, this negative view and this positive view of freedom, freed from, freed to, in the same way. When we are, when I think of, using it, a metaphor, like we are drowning in this world, Jesus comes to us and he throws the life vest. And in throwing the life vest, when we're out in the ocean and we don't have the power, we are saved from that water, but we were also saved to a person. We were saved to a person. And so the person of Jesus Christ. So saved from the things that are going to crush us and saved to a person who loves us deeply, who knows us fully, and who can set us free from the things that are out to get us in this world.
Yeah. I don't know why this story's popping up, but I think of, my kids, if I gave them too much freedom, they made really bad decisions. Mm-hmm. So I think there is a rebellion against that kind of parental role in our society. I say, my kids know this all the time. They're like, well, if you let us make our own decisions when we were, little kids, Dad, we would have been eating Fruity Pebbles and drinking Mountain Dew every morning for breakfast.
Right. Yeah.
Now that looked like freedom to them. Oh, Mom and Dad are gone. I'm going to dive in. But part of being a parent is like, no, you're not eating that. Well, why not? This is so good. This feels so good. This tastes so good. I'm free. My parents aren't around. But the freedom is in the structure. The freedom is in no, I know what's better for you. And many times in my own life, I feel the same way about Christ. It's like, I want to do this. I'm going to trust you on this, even though it doesn't feel like freedom. I know there is freedom in the gospel and being obedient here, even if I can't see it. Or freedom. I use this analogy a couple times when my middle son, Isaiah, was just a kid. I think we pulled up to a grocery store and he just ran right out into the main line of traffic because he was excited to go shopping. And I just grabbed him by the back of his shirt and yarded him in. And because now that looked like I was being a tyrannical, mean, and I swatted him real quick. It was back in the day. I'd probably go to jail for it now. But I think it might have been the only time I did that. But I was like, if I let you run free without these parameters, without these boundaries, you're going to die.
Yeah.
You are going to run right into that traffic and be pancaked. And I love you too much. So I grabbed him and he kind of looked at me. He's crying. I'm starting to cry. I'm like, dude, I cannot allow you to do that. I have to restrain you because you're going to end up dead. Yeah. Like if I let you bolt out of that car real quick, with Mom and Dad and your brother and sister run around, boo, you go right into traffic. I got to save you real quick. And I got to get a hold of you because you using your freedom without a parental oversight, without some structure, without some boundaries, it looks like freedom, but it's actually death. And I can't, so I'm going to do something that's going to sting a little bit right now, but I got to get you on the right path. I need you to know that you can't do that.
Yes.
Or, old school analogy too. Hey, fire's great in this wood stove. Warm your whole house. Keep you warm in the winter. You can sit by it. You can warm up. You can warm your family. The whole house is warm. Marty and I are firefighters. But if you open that door up and you get a coal on your floor and it runs wild, that's not a good fire. You got to keep that fire contained where it is supposed to be. And if that fire gets out of that box, we have a problem. So it can be incredibly good, but it's the freedom, if you will, of the stove that gives us the freedom to enjoy the warm and the heat. When it gets out of what it's meant to do and it goes off the rails, then we're showing up in a fire engine and putting your house out because the whole thing's burning to the ground. So for me, I think what you're explaining to me is like that freedom has boundaries, and as gospel men, we're bound by those boundaries. We're like, hey, this may look really good. Man, that's a structure fire. That's my house is burning to the ground. And I can rebuild it by the grace of God, But you know what? I think I'm going to trust that the fire is going to be best in the wood stove. You know what? I think I'm going to trust my father and say, I probably shouldn't run into traffic with Walmart people or Safeway people driving their rigs without looking for a little 3-year-old kid with a pacifier running into the street. You know what? Maybe mom and dad know that I shouldn't eat Fruity Pebbles and Mountain Dew every morning. Maybe that's not good for me, right? And it's incredibly hard for us as people to go, no, that's not freedom. You know, that's structure, that's religion, that's morality, that's ancient, that's antiquated, that's garbage. We need to get rid of that stuff. We need to be free. And for me, the freedom is God knows better than I do. And I've seen that in my life, man. Like, I've seen what a wreck I've made of my own life before Christ. Yeah. Absolute train wreck. Off the rails. No guidance. I'm a boat at bay drifting along, brother. Like, I have no idea where I'm going. I have no telos. I have no, this is where I'm going. It's just, life's just happening and I'm drifting. But when I'm reoriented towards Christ and his kingdom, I've got a nice fire at home in the stove. I'm not running out into traffic and getting obliterated. I'm making disciplined decisions as a disciple that I'm not waking up and filling my brain with Fruity Pebbles and Mountain Dew, because I know that's not good for me. I need a solid meal. And Christ provides me that feast. He is that solid meal. I don't need the garbage. And I'm tempted by it and I fall into it, but it's like, no, freedom's here. It's not here. It looks like freedom, but that ain't freedom, son. Come this way. Reorient yourself, redirect yourself to the kingdom. And it may look like, oh, we're holding you down. We don't want you to have fun. You're all a bunch of hypocrites. You're all judgmental. I'm like, there's a bit of that, and we could do better as a church. And, you know, we haven't always been the greatest witness. But at the same time, you should see who I would be without Christ, because I know who I would be. You may not, but in my individual journey, I know I would have been a structure fire, right? And I was heading in that direction. And so that turn to, I'm going to reorient to Christ and to his kingdom, and that's where my freedom is. And it's so hard to explain that to someone that hasn't encountered that hasn't had that encounter with the risen Christ, or hasn't had that. You know what? And Marty and I have said this, hey, you may not believe this. Just try some of these principles, see if your life gets better. And then you find out, like, you know, if I start putting some of these things into practice, you know, my life, it's not easier, but it does get better. You know, our home's not broken into a million pieces, and you know, we're not perfect, but we're all together as a Walker house. We're striving towards this kingdom, and we're fallen and we're broken and we're not perfect. But without that journey, without that goal, God only knows what direction we would head. It might look like freedom to everyone else, but I'm like, that's not freedom.
Yeah. I think this really pushes us.
So sorry about the sermon there.
No, it's great. I think it pushes us to have, like, I think we've got to have a conversation. We need to have more conversation around why we shouldn't be doing certain things. Why there are rules. Why actually sometimes we need to pay attention to people saying no. Like, as opposed to saying, I want to do that thing. Well, why would someone say no to that? Because actually, if they're saying no, like in this case, when you're talking, you know, as a father, instead of just revolting against it, we need to think, why is someone saying no to me there? Maybe they're saying no for a reason. Maybe they're saying no for health purposes. You know, when you were talking about that, I was reminded of this example I put down in one of my notebooks years ago from a book by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. And he was thinking, how does he put religious, like foundational religious terms into, say, a secular culture that does not associate at all with like religious terminology? And in this case, repentance. He was saying, how do you translate the idea of repentance? How do you translate the idea of
these
change?
religious words. And, I just shut down, and there they go talking about Jesus and repentance and sin and salvation and heaven.
Yes, yeah. So he looks into that, and he thought actually addiction is a very helpful idea that translates well in terms of people understanding. For those who have been addicts, they understand the power to have and the power sometimes not that you don't have to change. Mm-hmm. So he went and sought out this addict recovery place that had a high success rate, and he wanted to know how they were helping heroin addicts become free. And so this, I just want to read you this quote. So he said, "I spent a day with a group of 18-year-old heroin addicts. I asked the director of the center, what is it that you give them that gives them strength to change?" Then he writes, I'll never forget her reply. Quote, we are the first people they have met who give them unconditional love. And two, we are the first people they have met who care enough about them to say no. Then he writes, a shiver went down my spine. Sometimes the fate of a life depends on the ability to say and hear the word no. He's talking about heroin, something that is complete. I mean, it's fatal. I mean, that's something that will kill you. And he's saying in this case, when these people that have this whole building of people is packed with people with heroin addiction, people trying to figure out how to get their way out, how to get wholeness, and when he's looking, like, what's the answer? How have you been able to get so many people free of this? First, they just need to know they are loved. A lot of these people have never heard that. They've never felt that. And two, they've also been never told no. Mm-hmm. And I think that captures very well a very rich understanding of of God.
It's so good, man.
Of the rules we find in, say, for instance, you go back to the Genesis. A lot of people say, well, God is just, do you want to say something there?
Oh, I was just thinking, man, and I'm not trying to bring it back to me, but
Go.
It stirred it up where I had to say no to Isaiah for running into the street.
Right.
No.
Yes.
And when I grabbed him, it hurt me. Like I was tearing up, right? And it wasn't that he was necessarily disobedient to me and his, curly-haired pacifier little lad. I was like, I just kind of had to hurt him a little bit. Yeah. And I had to say no. And I'm tearing up because I love him so much. Right? Like, I'm like, dude, these kids are my world. Like, if anything happens to you, and that's on me, and so I had to say no. Yeah. But there was a firm no with, we're both crying in a parking lot because I love you. Yes. So much. And, years later, he's like, oh, yeah, I remember that, man. Like, he remembers all these stories, where he stuck a fork in the electrical outlet and shocked himself in Sunday school and all these kind of things. He couldn't really talk at the time, and he reenacted it. The Sunday school teacher grabs me. She's like, Scott, I think Isaiah shocked himself today. I was like, how? She's like, I told him not to, but he was trying to stuff a fork in an electrical outlet. And before I could get over there, like, he got jolted. And when he reenacted it, he couldn't really talk a whole lot. He just came out after Mass, and he's like, he's got his pacifier, and he pulls it out. He's like, Papa. And he kind of I was like, oh, yeah, he got shocked. But that Sunday, it's the same thing. Like, no. Yeah. Don't do that. Like, that could end fatally. Let's steer clear. Let's get you over on this other. Well, why not? I don't understand. Why are these rules in place? Who are you? I'm someone that knows that that's really bad for you, and you don't want to feel that. And that could really go south, so no. Because I love you. But that's all. It just reminded me of those two things that I never really heard it articulated in that fashion until you did that, and I'd never really thought of it that way until you reminded me, like, man, I got tears running down my eyes because I told my son no because I love him, and that no and that love somehow because... And maybe this goes to something I wanted to ask. I scribbled it down, but I don't want to derail you from what you were going to say. But how do we, as kingdom people live, we stand on the truth of the no's without alienating others, making them feel ostracized, or that we don't like them, or we don't, how do we love them, maybe say no when we have to, without being jerks, without being arrogant, without being Ned Flanders, without being these, killjoys or nerds or judgmental, self-righteous, arrogant, right? Fill in the blank. The way that people out there view a lot of Christians, and a lot of times rightfully so, right? It's like we should own some of that sometimes because we do act that way. We're not all of us, but there are people that do it, and people run with that. How do we say, like, hey, this is who we are, man, like unapologetically, like we love Christ and his kingdom, without being sort of self-righteous, arrogant jerks to people? And I don't know, because I've probably been guilty of that myself. But what would that, how would we do that? And maybe we could circle back to that, because I kind of interrupted you because I had a few tabs open in my brain. So
yeah, I think that the starting point, and this is going to sound almost like cliche, but the starting point is Jesus Christ.
oh, thanks.
Yeah, so get some water. Yeah.
Yeah, we started off in a coughing fit together here, brother. We were not smoking cigars before this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. we probably won't be doing that after, but I don't know what happened there.
So the starting point has to be Jesus, because if we want to actually,
Thanks, man.
if we want our message, the message we're communicating, in other words, what we're saying, and then also what we're living out to be like Jesus, we need to actually look at, well, what does Jesus look like? What did Jesus say? How did he respond? So, that has to be the guide. So how did Jesus respond with people he disagreed with? Oh, we saw, first of all, he had a conversation with them. He listened to them. He was patient with them. He spoke to them, and whenever he spoke, we hear the words, in grace and truth. Mm-hmm. So the message is always on those twin feet of grace and truth. Yeah, truth is spoken, but whenever it's given, it's seasoned with grace. It's not strong-armed. It's not pounded, to the face. It's truth spoken with grace. I think, I don't know, I'll just stop there, because I feel like that actually is the message. Because I think we can go off on, this and that, but I think actually it just comes down to, so maybe putting it as a question, for those of us who are followers of Jesus, how do I get it right? How do I know that actually I'm on the right track in terms of how I live, and how do I keep from being, as you mentioned, like sort of basically that Christian jerk who's like, yeah, you might be right, dude, but you're an idiot. Mm-hmm. And actually, I don't want anything to do with you because you're dumb.
Yeah.
The question to ask then is, when I'm in a conversation, am I reflecting Jesus in thought, word, and deed?
So it reflects, and this is something I've had to do as an individual. Like when I zoom out and I see, for me, the foundation's cracking all around me in the culture, and people going this way, that way, the other way. The temperature's, boiling. And I'm not the best at this, but I'm like, how can I be transformed? Right? Like I'll lean forward. How can I be transformed? Like how do I reflect that light of Christ, that light in life? Because I can too quickly want to go on the internet and show them, well, this is the right way. You're wrong. But how do I, to my wife and to my children and to my community, broken and fallen that I am, they go, you know what?
Yeah.
He's changing and he's seeking, and I respect him. I may not agree with him. I may not share the same perspective through which he views the world, but for me, it's like, how do I start with myself? How do I become better? How do I become more Christ-like? How do I become less judgmental? And how do I, pull that log out of my own eye instead of looking to pick the sawdust out of somebody else's? So the focus is for others by going, I need to get better though, right? Like I need to be sanctified. I need to be more like Christ. And hopefully someone else can say, you know what, something's going on with that person. And I feel loved. And sometimes he says no, but to certain things, but he still loves me. He still cares for me, genuinely cares for me, and I do.
Yeah.
And I think part of it is such a hunger. It's like, I want you to know this so bad. I want to share this gift with you.
Yeah.
But there's walls up, understandably so. But I just want you to consider this gift that's changed me, changed my life, changed my family for the better.
So you're saying, like, you're speaking there as a father, right?
Yeah, and as a person living in the society, like, how do I live this? You want to change the world, change yourself, otherwise your efforts are in vain.
Yeah. Yeah, I think...
Because for me, I can focus on the external and be like, oh, there's this and that and the other thing, and it's like, bring it into your house. Don't get all spun up by the news and all these stories. What are you doing in your life, in your marriage, with your children, with your neighbors, with your friends?
Yeah.
And hopefully that can be that little small pebble that reverberates out rather than, kind of virtue signaling to everyone else how correct and great and right we are and everyone else is off. Which is a real temptation, and it's everywhere right now. It's like, you think you're better than everyone else. I've seen your life. It's a disaster.
Yeah.
And you're going to fix the economy? Bro, you can't even wash your sheets. Right? Like, and that's not me being judgmental. It's just me going like, okay, so what are areas and what are you bringing? Like, you're getting all spun up about all these external events, and your life at home is a disaster. And I'm saying that to myself too. Like, I'm guilty of that. Oh, I could fix everything out here. This is what we need to do. And it's like, yeah, but maybe I need to look a little more and have a little more internal reflection. Have I been the best friend to Nathan Betts, or was I cold? Did I say something that was out of pocket?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in a weird way, it is a freedom, and you're not being an individualist, but you're like, hey, I need to get better so that change can happen, instead of just pointing the finger and doing nothing. And I'm out of the spotlight. It's like, no, God's shining that spotlight on me and my life, and I'm falling short. So.
Yeah, I think that... I think simplifying it is the big thing, because I do think that actually this question can get into a overwhelming, like, man, there's so much to do.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many fires to put out. There's so many problems to deal with. I can't change the world. What can I change? And I think then it comes down to what do I have agency in? Which, by the way, a really quick anecdote. That is one of the challenges. That is one of the reasons why there's such a rise in anxiety, because we're seeing, especially with like on smartphones and social media, we're seeing like by the seconds all these problems. Some of them are catastrophic, that we have no agency in.
No,
we can't do anything about these issues that we see over, in different parts of the world. When you name that part of the globe, I mean, there are many.
Mm-hmm.
What can we do? Well, actually, in my home, a lot of agency there.
Mm-hmm.
And for our listeners here, no, it doesn't mean you have to be a dad. Could mean you are a sister, a daughter, a brother, a son. Yes, if you're a husband, if you're a wife, yeah, absolutely. But that's, in my friendships, in my networks, in my social circles, in my marriage, I think that's what I find really helpful, what you're saying, as opposed to thinking, oh man, all these problems in the White House or all these problems in the Western world. Yeah, there are. And yes, we certainly have a degree of agency there. But in terms of thinking, what can I actually change?
Mm-hmm.
Starting point, Jesus, change me.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, help me by the power of your Spirit to be an agent of your love, truth, grace to those around me. Right there, that for me mentally is, it takes the edge off. Because now I think, well, that's accessible. I can actually, these are all this here, all this is within my scope of influence. So I think that's what I like about what you're saying in terms of like, where do we start? We start with us.
Yeah, it's like, I watch the news or something, which I don't. I don't really watch it anymore, but how much control do I have over these events that I'm being overstimulated by, either on my phone or what have you? I'm like, I can't control the weather. And it just feels like that. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's sunny out today, or it's too hot, or it's just like, I can't control that. It's out of my control. Like whatever, to a certain extent, some politician says, I can't really control what Joe Biden or Donald Trump or whoever says or does. I can have an opinion about it, but why would I allow that to ruin my whole day? Because I've got people around me that need me. And if I'm all spun up about the weather, something I can't control, what am I acting like in my life to the people that are right in front of me? It's like, I don't know, he spun up about something he saw on his phone and now his whole day's wrecked. Oh, okay. Why would you allow that to have such control over you?
Keep going.
No, yeah, I just...
I think that, in a way, really practical there. Not like, this discussion is for that, but I think that also is, trying to think how to word this, because I think that also is a practice of maturity. And I think as Christians, that we put the language there of like discipleship, meaning we need to actually be vigilant about what we watch. We need to be vigilant about what we pay attention to. In so many ways, discipleship comes down to, what are we paying attention to? What are we giving our minds to? And certainly as a guy growing up in the church, I encountered Jesus in my high school years, and a lot of that language has referred often to like sexual temptation. Hey, watch out for those things. Be careful what you have your eyes on. I think right now, in our what's been called this anxious generation, I think more than ever, I think one of the practices of Christian spirituality is being very vigilant about what we allow ourselves to be attentive to. What am I going to watch? Now, often I think, and again, I go back to like, so much of that has been thought through like the lens of, don't watch porn. It's like, yeah, okay, that's good. And don't watch things that can cause lust to have its way. In this case, I think, again, it comes down to, it might not be lust, but what if it's just catastrophe and scandal and all these things that are actually will cause heartache? It's not to say we live in the cave, but more about, what am I going to pay attention to for the sake of Christ? Is this thing helping me in my walk with Jesus?
That's good stuff, man. Yeah, and to regulate that and realize, hey, with technology now, we're living in a time that we really, especially young kids, their prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed, and they're being bombarded with information. And not to pick on the sexuality thing, but my gosh, like, most kids have the opportunity to see, most young boys have the opportunity to see more nudity and pornography than King David or King Solomon or Genghis Khan by the time they're, you know what I'm saying? Like, and they are overwhelmed by that stuff. And it used to be, it's true, man.
No, absolutely.
It's unbelievable to me. Like, these kids have it right here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a temptation that most men throughout human history have not had to deal with. And it's so easily accessible. I mean, that is, so I'm not trying to just laser in on that, but to your point, everything that we're being bombarded with feels like it's of the same level as the pornography. It's political porn, it's rage porn, it's whatever it is. We're so overstimulated, but where our brains aren't able to control it or even process it or know which way's right, which way's wrong. We're just like, boom, TikTok and scrolling, next. Oh, like we can't even watch a reel for more than 2 seconds because we got to scroll to the next one. Don't like that, don't like that, don't like that. So like we've lost this ability to, and we're anxious because we have no ability to focus on much of anything anymore. And it is about the individual. What is going to make me happy? What's going to make me feel free? Well, that's not freedom. And you become so inward focused, right? Like the gospel is, in one sense, it's about forgiveness, sanctification, redemption for the individual. But in another sense, it's much bigger than that.
I think that actually so much of this comes down to, are we asking the right questions?
Yeah.
So, I've spent most of my professional working life as a Christian apologist defending the faith. Mm-hmm. At different youth conferences, inevitably, the question that will come up is, how far is too far? Is oral sex too far? Is a kiss on the lips? It's honestly, you have all these questions, and that's the wrong question.
Yeah.
Not even like in the right planet.
Yeah.
The question is this thing going to help me get closer to Jesus or not? Or is it going to pull me away from Jesus? Mm-hmm. So I think in the same way, I think we can apply that question here. Well, how much is too much? I mean, is it okay for me to watch, NBC or Fox or TikTok? How many TikTok videos are enough? Yeah. Wrong question.
Yeah.
That's the wrong question. Mm-hmm. It's like, is that thing helping me in my love for Jesus, or is it going to actually sort of exacerbate the disordered loves I have, or I have this propensity towards? So, as opposed to saying, is it bad or good? Wrong question. Now,
and you're focused in on yourself too. The gospel is, and Marty reminded me this when he picked up water. I'm like, hey, I'm going to get you some more water. We are set free to serve others. Like there is a freedom in serving others, right? Like we're gym bros, we work out, we do physical things, but the point of it isn't just to be big and puffed up. It's to steward ourselves so that we can serve others better, so we can serve people. So when something happens, we're actually able to serve.
Yeah.
If someone drops over in a Starbucks, we're actually able to do CPR. So we're trying to be strong so that we can serve. So it's instead of inwardly reflecting on everything on yourself and your own freedom and your own personal happiness, you're set free to think about others and serve others and to equip others, to mentor others, to think about something bigger than yourself. So, well, why are you so anxious? Because you're focused on yourself. That's all you do every day. If I focus on myself every day and no one else, and all I'm thinking about is me, I'm going to get anxious. It's miserable. You got to think about other people. You got to serve other people. You got to
You should say more about that.
Look
that's
outward.
Very profound.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like we think, well, the freedom is for me. Is it though? It is, but you're free in the context a lot of times of serving others. So rather than just trying to be free, I need my own time, me.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what, you actually find it, and it's not easy, but if you get outside of your own head instead of being continually inward focused on your own, how do I be happy? And you start going, you know what? How can I serve this person? There's a freedom there. And I'm not saying ignore yourself and be the mom that all she does is serve her family and she's miserable and everyone takes advantage of her. I'm not saying that. But I am saying there's a part of that. Like in the family, in your relationships, in your, the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. Small reminder, he drops off a glass of water and I'm like, dude, I almost feel bad because he served me. Like, this is your podcast, brother. What are you doing? Acting like a waiter. Like, hey, man. But he's serving me in that moment, saying, hey, here's some water.
Yeah.
And it blessed me. Like, dude, that's really cool. Something so small that spoke to me. I almost feel guilty about it when other people do it for me. And so part of that service is you're out of your own head and you're not wallowing in your bed all day because you're like, hey, now how can I serve? Is there something I can do in my house this morning while I'm lying around? Yeah, the dishes are overflowing. I don't want to do it, but this is actually going to serve someone else. I don't want to walk around the block and walk the dog. I hate that dog. It barks all the time. I swear it's demon possessed sometimes. I'm like, there's something wrong with this dog. Like, I've never whoa, this dog needs an exorcism. But I'm serving that dog, my wife. I'm connecting with my wife. I'm getting outside of my own head when I'm like, no, freedom is somebody else walk that damn dog. I'm sick of that thing. Right? But that's not really it. And there's a freedom and this kind of coming full circle. Like, we don't think that there's a freedom in crucifixion and picking up our cross and serving, but there is. Mm-hmm. And it's weird. And how do you explain that to someone? Well, I grew the most when I was suffering. I learned a lot about myself and the world, and you have this gratefulness. I wake up every morning, man, and I'm like, hey, thanks God, I got another shot at this thing. My heart was beating through the night, and and it's not like, oh, I kept my heart breathing, and I kept breathing last night. Good job, buddy. I'm there's something external that kept my heart breathing, kept my heart beating, kept me breathing, and it wasn't me, and it was out of my control. Here I am. I'm grateful, God. Thanks for waking me up again. I live to fight another day. I'm so grateful. It was out of my hands, out of my control, purely a gift of grace. How can I show gratefulness to you? And how can I get out of my own head and my own problems and try? And it's hard because I'm selfish and I'm a sinner and I need mercy and grace all the time. I'm not better than anyone else. But I'm like, how do I serve others? Is there something I can do in this moment? And I think that's why Marty and I did this collaboration, is like, he wants to mentor young men to know how to use their strength as men to serve others. How does he mentor others? He's serving them. Like, I want to distill some of the wisdom so you don't make some of the mistakes that I do. I want to show you. I want to teach you. I want to show you what a disciplined, discipled life looks like so that you can experience the benefits of this freedom and service as well. It's not, oh, look at me. And it's just, so that's why I know when Marty and I get together, it's like, that is kind of the undergirding of it, is like, this is service, man. Isn't this cool? We got all these guys together. We're doing something physical, and it's encouraging them that it's okay to be a man. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to suffer. It's okay to do hard things. It's okay because it's going to make you better. Mm-hmm. So embrace it, embrace the suck, whatever. Like, this sucks, but it's going to get better. I just feel like this is the way the world is made. There's a crucifixion before a resurrection. It's hardwired into the universe. We can't get away from that. We want the resurrection with no cross. And it just doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
It's like it's not fun, but you got to do the right thing. You have to have virtue. You have to have that moral foundation that says, yeah, this really sucks, but it's the right thing. Mm-hmm. I want to do this. I know I need to pick up my cross, and I need to do this. You know, whatever. I want to look at that temptation on the phone. I got to pick up my cross because the freedom's over here, and I know that that's death. I want to run out into the road. I'm going to die. I got to pick up my cross. But we've lost that, right? Like, I feel like part of the American gospel or Christianity in its current form is like, we're going to kind of give you this freedom. It's really easy. Say the prayer. You're good. Life's going to be great, dude. No, brother.
Yeah.
That ain't it. You know, you might struggle. You might run into a few issues. People may hate you.
Yeah. I think that what you're mentioning about what you're saying here about service is actually really, really profound and really needed. I remember reading this story it was told by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. It tells a story of a guy who he was celebrating his 104th birthday, Jewish man. And this guy had, during the time of Nazi Germany, lost, by the time the war was over, and by the time the Nazi camps had been exposed, he himself, I think, had been sentenced to one of the death camps, and he made it through. But he lost everybody. He lost his wife, lost his kids. I think he lost his parents too, and all that. And the point that Jonathan Sachs makes in telling the story is, if you had seen him at this 104th birthday party, you would never have known that he had gone through such hell. After all of that tragedy, tumult, and hell that he endured through the Nazi death camps, all the catastrophic loss, he decided to start again. And he married and built a family again. And he went into confectionery, and he went to this spot where he had like these orange slices, I think, covered in chocolate. And he that was one of the big things that he had at this confectionery store. And Jonathan Sachs's point is, at this 104th birthday party, he was like the happiest man at that party. And Sachs's point is, it's because actually he chose to serve. His whole life was service. There was certainly very deep intentionality about what he was going to focus on. Yeah, his life had been destroyed. But how was this man able to have such deep, genuine joy? A large portion of why he was able to have joy is because he served. He served others. His whole life was serving others. He loved making other people happy. Anyway, it's just to say that, bringing it back to here, that's a more, I think, for me, it was a poignant story of a guy who had endured such tragedy. And I think for us today, we think, man, how can we live when there's so much? How can we have joy? How can we have? How can we be resilient when, coming through pain, coming through tumult, coming through letdown? I think a big way in which we can come through, and I think something that the Christian faith offers here, is actually through service. So I think as I'm just riffing off of what you're saying, but I think is at a very deep level, what we need to embrace, and also profoundly Christian too. It's not just this thing that's like, this is a helpful value. It's like, no, actually, this is a reflection of the Christian faith.
Yeah. So we're trying to think of what would be a good follow-up to that, brother. When you were driving here today, what was something that you're like, I really want to lay this on them? Like, I've thought about this. I hope I get a chance to say this. And I just want to get this off my chest, get this out of my head. And was there something that was just driving you? Because you're a pastor, you work with people, you've worked with them for as long as I've known you. You've seen the messes we make of our lives, of our own lives and the lives of others.
Yeah, I think that, okay, I guess something I've been thinking about, and I haven't actually thought about this long enough, so maybe not.
Spitball, buddy.
I've been pretty intentional about what I watch, what I read, and that just for my own mental health. But what I read is stories of, and as you would expect, people reeling. There's anger, there's outrage, there's profound sorrow. But what I see on the pages of newspapers is there are no answers. Just questions and quite emotional responses. And really, and I mean, even when I talk about emotional responses, some that are actually proportionate to the thing. Like, yeah, there should be outrage. Sadness is many of these emotions are right. And I think one of the unfortunate things about the culture, our current cultural moment, is that people want to give answers in like now. Like, what's the answer right now? And there's a sense in which I think as leaders, we should be okay with, I'm not sure where we go from here. I'm not sure what we do. And just sort of being okay with just being in the moment and being present to the people in our life who actually would look at that death and be outraged and feel lost. I think that, I guess the thought I have been thinking about is Christianity offers hope. And it doesn't mean that there's no sadness. It means that actually there is sadness. I mean, when Christ saw his friend Lazarus dead, he wasn't like, hey, there's hope, guys. Put the tears away. No, he himself wept. I guess what I'm thinking is, we live in such a broken world.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we can be led to believe that it's not that broken. That's like, it's not that bad. And I think premature death reminds us that there is evil.
Mm-hmm.
It is real. And at the same time, Christianity offers a hope. So it's very incomplete. Obviously, it's not. I'm trying to actually land the plane here on my thoughts. But I guess I think
it's a pastoral issue. We have a hard time landing planes in our.
Yes, seriously.
Hold on, I got to make one more.
But I think actually, sort of zooming out, when you think of, say, someone like Vladimir Putin, one of the, and one of the things about just what's happened in Ukraine is that whole thing has reminded us that evil is real. Like, it's like, even people think, well, for the longest time, I remember when I used to speak on college campuses frequently, the issue of morality was a hard thing to communicate to people. Because people like, dude, we're not that bad. I'm pretty good. The world isn't that bad. We all we don't cheat. Like, we know we shouldn't cheat and steal and hurt someone. It's like, Actually, no. Some people think it's okay. Some people think it's okay if they actually come up to you and slap you in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Some people think it's okay if you have something nicer than them, they're going to take it from you. And I think the reality of some of these catastrophic events, which, by the way, I hope that these kinds of things stop, that they don't happen. I'm not saying, oh yeah, it's good. No, it's bad. But I think one of the reminders of these catastrophic happenings is that we live in this evil world and we need help. That we actually are not big enough. We don't have the capacity ourselves to save ourselves from evil. We desperately need God. I think that's so. If I were to sort of tie it all together, I think I'd say that. And so maybe not yet. Hope is still a reality, but I think when we stare into the face of these events, there's a feeling of helplessness. And actually, what I think we should do there is not say, no, as much as yes, we are helpless. We need someone to help us because we can't figure it out. We need Jesus. And I think it's bigger than that, but at least I think some of these things remind us, like, my goodness, we live in a very broken, evil world. And for some people who are listening right now, like, yeah, dude, I already know that. Mm-hmm. For many people, I think these events sort of puncture that balloon of, we're not that bad. Mm-hmm. Like, we're all, like, society, like, we're not that bad. It's like, actually, it is bad, actually.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that, kind of foundational Christian principle, hey, we're all created in God's image and likeness and worthy of love and dignity and respect, no matter what we do, no matter what our opinions are, no matter what. Do you think we've sort of lost some of that? Because, I try to look at someone I might disagree with on a lot of these issues, and I go, but you know what? Zoomed in, 1-to-1, they're created in God's image and likeness and worthy of love, dignity, and respect, no matter what they believe, no matter what their religious persuasion is, no matter what their lifestyle choices are. I respect them because, in some sense, they're an icon of God to me. They're created in God's image and likeness, and that's where we get value and dignity and worth, simply because of that. And that's foundational to, the gospel, but it's foundational to the entire Western ethic. Like, I can't impose my will upon you just because I have power. No, that person, as an individual, is created in God's image and likeness.
Yeah.
And that person's rights do not come from society or whoever decides or this person or that government or that whatever. Like, no, they're created in God's image and likeness, period. And they're valuable because of that. And the gospel is that Christ became a human being and began to restore that image in us. And so he bridged that gap between God and humanity. And there's something there, and I haven't really thought this out fully. I haven't really connected my thoughts, but like, because he became one of us as a human being. Yeah. So it's not only cross that we're broken, and that's the answer, but there's also something I would like to flesh out a little bit more on the incarnation of Christ taking on that human image. Like, there's a bridge there. St. Athanasius wrote a whole book about it on the incarnation that I actually taught on in catechesis, that something's going on here deeper than just this end of the spectrum. Because I think for a lot of, there's a healing there. We're created in God's image and likeness, worthy of love, dignity, and respect. Oh, and by the way, God became a person in Christ.
Yeah.
So he's not just some evil tyrant out there somewhere, and maybe we can know him, maybe we can't. No, he became a human person just like us. He bore that image. He bridged this gap from the get-go. It wasn't, because in many times, and I'm not trying to make light of the message of the cross, but a lot of times, in my experience of American Christianity, it's like Jesus is born, his ministry I will get over that real quick, doesn't really matter. His 3-year ministry doesn't really matter. It's like, all that matters is the crucifixion and the resurrection. And we neglect the image of God, we neglect the incarnation, we neglect his life and ministry, how he treated people, how he interacted with people, how he walked and talked in truth and grace. Let's just jump over that and get to here.
Yeah.
Like, we're minimalists as Americans.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's all great stuff. Incarnation, sure. Yeah, I'm not going to read St. Athanasius. I don't want to know about all the... how do I get to the end? How do I get the Amazon Prime package delivered tomorrow? Right. What's the minimum I need to do to get the goods? And then I can go on and live my life. And what I've realized as I've gotten older, I turned 49 this week coming up, is there's more than that. There's more to this faith than just what's the bare minimum that I need to do to get the fire insurance. It's like, this is our entire world. This is a life. There is no, this is just easy. You know, it's an entire life. It's an entire perspective on the way when we wake up and when we go to bed and when we live in between.
Yeah.
And I think we've kind of lost that from my perspective. I didn't grow up in the church, but I've seen it in my years in the church. Well, let's just get right here. Okay, you're good. Okay. Well, how do I live? How do I live that transformed life? How do I impact the culture around me? How do I be that saint that God has called me to be in my life, in my community, and not just like, well, I got the card here. I'm good. I'm going to go live my life however I want, do whatever I want, because I'm going to pursue my own freedom and my own destiny. And I'm going to allow God in a little bit, but not too much. I don't want to get crazy. I don't want to be one of those wacko religious people. I just want to go to church on Sunday, maybe if the Seahawks aren't playing. Like, it feels like it doesn't demand a whole lot of us. And I think what I'm realizing is like, no, this demands everything. And I'm not there. I've fallen short. I'm not the best representative of a Christian man. I'm not. I realize that. But I am realizing there's more, that like the well never runs dry with Christ. You can pursue this for all eternity, and by God's grace, we will. But there's so much there. There's so much gold in the faith, man. Like, it never ends. And I just want to encourage people to be like, keep digging, keep diving, keep going.
I think to that end, for anybody who would say, myself included, man, what if there's something else? It's helpful even like here to say, like, what's the contrast? What are the alternatives? Because there are alternatives. One alternative is what you alluded to. Doing a bit of this, doing a bit of that, but not going all in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I can do church like when it works, and I can open up to other people, like, but not too much, because I don't trust people. And I can totally, I can put my trust in Jesus, like, but when I need him, like, I don't need him all the time, but when I need him, I'll definitely be like,
I got this right now.
Yeah. And I think it's like, but that's not Christianity.
Mm-mm.
That's not what Jesus called us to. And I think it comes back to, what are we actually after? Are we after a comfortable life? Okay, well, let's just say it then. That's not actually Christ. That's the American dream.
Mm-hmm.
The American dream is you can have that boat, you can have that financial capital, if you just do X, Y, Z. But it's very hard. I mean, I don't know what you think about this, but it's very hard for me to see the American dream lining up with the call of Christ. You know, pretty antithetical to each other. No, it's not. The way of Jesus is not saying money's bad. It's not good to have a nice home and et cetera. No, but it is saying if you make that thing the ultimate, it's going to ruin you. It's going to that's going to be your God because you'll never have enough. And you can play that out on different levels.
You can plumb the depths of Christ, or you can plumb the depths of what the dream offers you. And the dream's an illusion because, not to quote St. Augustine again, our hearts are restless till they find their rest in thee.
I was just going to mention
Period.
that. Yes.
If you don't understand, and St. Paul, right? Like, hey, I've learned the secret of being content. I can have a whole lot, and I can be on the boat, and I can have a great time, but you can take it all away. It doesn't matter because I have the pearl of great price. I've got the kingdom in me. That was fun. This is okay. Like, I can have it all or I can have nothing, but it doesn't matter because you're not taking Christ from me. The pearl of great price. I found it. Yeah. I can live in that trailer behind the church when I'm 22 years old and feel like the richest man in the world. Barely getting by, broke, cooking on a hot plate, no running water, peeing in the woods with a 12-gauge shotgun. I'm so rich. I've got everything. I've got everything I could ever imagine right now.
Yeah.
And I'm also learning, hey, if I'm on vacation with my family and we rent a pontoon and we're having a great time and we're out on the water and the mountains are out and hey, this is pretty cool too.
Yeah.
But take it all away. That's fine. Don't let me lose you. So in the pursuit of those things, this is never ending. I can plumb the riches of the depths of Christ and his gospel, or I can seek the dream that's an illusion. And it's like you said, it's never enough.
Yeah.
It will never be enough. You're never going to find happiness searching in that way. Yeah, like that hunger is just going to create more hunger. Your appetite will never be fulfilled. So, do you want to eat out of the garbage can, or do you want to eat the prime rib that Christ offers you? Take your pick. Because you got a prime rib over here, but you're eating out of the trash can, right? Like it's just it looks good, but you'll never find it. You're just gonna keep chasing your tail forever. And what kind of life is that? So we've kind of talked about the negative. I wanted to switch on you, and I wanted to say, what to you as a pastor, an apologist, a husband, a father, what gives you the most hope right now for the church and the culture? Like when you look out and you go, all right, here's definitely some pitfalls we want to avoid. What is like, you know what, I'm hopeful for this. Like this actually goes, you know what? This is good.
I will say the first thing that comes to mind is faithful followers of Jesus. People who embody the love of Jesus give me hope. And what I mean by that is people I just see who are like normal, ordinary people at my church, people in my neighborhood who I know, like those are people who are embodying Jesus. It's not like this high optics stage presence. But it's just people saying, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna follow Jesus. I'm gonna be faithful to him. Why does that give me hope? Because it reminds me of Jesus. It's the embodiment of Christ. One thing that's striking about Jesus is, I think it's helpful to remember this. Like he lived in a very tumultuous time. I mean, incredibly tumultuous time. Rome, I mean, when we think, that's why I find when people use the word unprecedented today, like, this is unprecedented, I think, no, it's not.
These are the times.
No, we may have not seen it before, but it's not like it's the first thing to happen to human beings, like in terms of suffering, in terms of the this devastation that people have experienced. No, when you think of that, Rome, the kinds of things that were happening in that empire in terms of violence, in terms of even in terms of sexuality, in terms of infanticide, all these things. But what's interesting about Jesus, there's never panic. Like there is never a story that you read within the 4 biographies and in whatever is recorded of Jesus where you think Jesus is like, oh no, what are we going to do? Guys, yeah. I didn't have a plan for this.
The world's got a big problem.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Yeah, like, I guess the cross isn't going to work here. I guess the resurrection, I need a plan B.
Yeah.
It's like, and it's not to say, and that's not necessarily a therefore you shouldn't be worried.
Yeah.
No, we're not Jesus. But it is instructive to know that actually in our time right now, where we've experienced a lot of destabilizing forces, events that have caused us to say, oh my goodness, this is not, the things that have been constants in our life are no longer constant. It's helpful for me to see the embodiment of Jesus in faithful followers of him, because it reminds me that he is not thinking, oh, we're screwed.
Yeah.
As much as saying, life actually might be difficult. Life actually might be even more difficult than you could ever imagine. But I am with you.
Yeah.
I am with you. And what's that line? Frederick Buechner has this line of like, the very worst of things is not the last thing. No, and he refers to this line of, he uses this line of, no, the last thing is this deep-hearted joy and laughter that wells up. That refers to the resurrection. That's the last thing. The worst thing is never the last thing because of the resurrection.
Yeah, man.
So, and I can tell you from being in place from experiencing pain, I know you have experienced profound pain. I'm always sensitive to communicate this kind of message, but it is still real that actually in our worst, darkest moments, Jesus is with us there. And even if we don't feel him, we can at least know that he's been there.
Mm-hmm.
And he knows the way out.
Yeah.
So I think that's what gives me hope. It comes back to just these people, like the embodiment of Jesus reminds me of him, who tells me, man, this could be the worst thing you ever encounter, but it's not the last thing.
Man, that's good stuff, brother. That's so good, man. Man, I was thinking about one of the things that gives me hope is with all of this technological advance of everything we see going on in our world and people kind of not able to process the incredible amount of stimulation, I think we're getting to a point in the culture somewhat and in some areas where it's like, we've got everything, but something's missing. There's a hunger out there in a way that I haven't seen for kind of classical traditional Christianity. Like, you know what? Maybe there is something to this. Maybe these civilizations didn't build these massive cathedrals for nothing. Like, maybe there was something there. Instead of like, well, it's all mythology. I read The New Atheist. This is a bunch of rubbish. You guys are superstitious and blah, 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 blah. There seems to be a new, with everything that's spinning around us right now, so super turbo fast and AI going on, they're like, well, what's really real and genuine and lasting and has stood the test of time?
Yes.
And you're like, you know what? 2,000 years ago, and this thing is still going. And I'm reminded of that, because it gives you a perspective, right? Like we think of our little lifespan or, well, the verdict of history will be shown to be this way. Like we know. And we think of, if for me, I think of the last 49 years, or this person thinks of their life. And we look at our whole world through the modern era, or the last 50 years, or the last 100 years. And, oh my gosh, democracy's ending, blah, 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 blah. It's the end of the world. It's just like you said. And Jesus is like, hey, boys, we're chill, man. I got you. It's going to look really bad, but I'm coming out of the tomb. This ain't the end, right? I am going to be resurrected from the dead, bodily. Not this wishy-washy, well, the resurrection means to me spring flowers and Easter bunnies. No, dude. It means he came out of the tomb alive on the third day. It's not some weird, well, I feel better. This is kind of my optimistic take on the resurrection. It's like, that's not it. And I think G.K. Chesterton was talking about, I love old G.K., but he was talking about, this 2,000-year-old lineage of the church. And he said, tradition, meaning the Christian tradition, because everyone was same thing. We're worried democracy is the end of the world. World War II, World War I, like, this is it. It's over. All of our great experiment is over. We're making so much progress, and now it's all been taken from us. And Chesterton said, the Christian tradition is the democracy of the dead. So for 2,000 years, we've had people voting. And the Christian tradition is the democracy of the dead that refuses to submit to the arrogant oligarchy who just happen to be walking around right now. Right? So it's like we have this communion of saints for 2,000 years. And if you look at it that way, if we're going to look at it democratically from a Christian tradition, it's like, hey, we got 2,000 years of votes. Why are you voting right here in 2025? Why are you viewing the whole world based on our current contemporary experience of the world? Like, we've got this lineage going back.
Wow.
And it's powerful. Like, so have a little bit of a framework here. Like, this is bigger than us, way bigger. Like, we've got a family that goes back. And this isn't just, oh, well, they invented this incarnation. It was based on these pagan myths, and then they ran from that, and then they ran with it, and they invented all these stories about Jesus and water to wine and this resurrection stuff. Well, they just, copy, cut, paste, and it's like, no, this has actually changed people's lives for a very long time, and it actually means something. And there's a voice behind you by which you can kind of get a perspective on your current time. So this is just a blip moment in time, like our lives, dust in the wind, buddy. But when you zoom out and go, wait, hold on a second, I'm a part of something way bigger that's really built incredible civilizations and really changed people's lives and really actually worked for people and given them a hope and given them a purpose and given them a reason to live in the midst of, we're being invaded, the bombs are dropping. What's sustaining you? What's your perspective? Well, our perspective is Christ is risen. So we're not freaking out, right? We will fight them on the beaches, right? Like, that comes out of the Christian tradition. That's not a nihilist.
Wow.
So whether this person is a prophet, it still comes out of that 2,000-year-old tradition. Like, you're standing on this truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
We will never surrender. Whew. Know what I'm saying?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I think we're probably getting close here, because I got an old man bladder, and I should probably wrap it up here pretty soon, unless Marty wants to throw some cool stuff in here.
No, I think
so. Dude, Marty, thanks for. We'll keep talking here a little bit, maybe closing thoughts, but I did want to, before I forget, say thanks for letting me step into your chair and serving us, and I want to give thanks to the 1016 man and all that you're doing in our community. Recently promoted, he's a lieutenant, Paulsville Fire. Honored to know you as a friend, as a brother, as a man of integrity. You inspire me. You make me better. So I'm grateful for your friendship and grateful for this platform. So I did want to say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, dude. What could we end with? Let's look at one of my scribbled questions here. We'll put a punctuation mark on this, or a ...
Yeah.
I have to scroll through my notes. Man, there's so many things I wanted to talk about with you. And
Can I just say,
please.
so I've been thinking like personally, and I've shared this with you, and I'm careful to say this because certainly the people who are listening to this, you as a listener have experienced different things, highs and lows in your life. I know you have faced a great deal of hardship at different points. You've endured those things. So with all that being said, sort of letting you into some of my story, like the last 5 years have been incredibly difficult for me. Dealing at times with, anxiety and issues of mental health that really I've never faced before in my life through, a job that went sideways, a completely unexpected, some relational fracturing, and then also just some really almost back to back. So, job loss twice, and both times in very sort of in a way I wasn't the reason for those things, so it felt just very unjust. But in the process, also then looking for a job when I've got kids and I've got to provide and just want to share like something I've learned, and I'd be interested to hear what you'd say to this. But one of the questions I've been thinking a lot about is like what makes someone resilient? What makes someone able to bounce back? And what I'm asking really is, when I speak of resilience, I'm asking the question of what gives us the capacity to withstand pressure. And there are different things, but what I've actually thought of myself, and through the help of a mentor, actually is. So anyway, let me actually drop down to what actually happened. So there came a point where I felt like, man, I'm struggling. I'm not able to sleep. Anxiety levels are like going up pretty high, and like it felt just out of control. And I called a friend of mine who is a follower of Jesus, and he's a doctor, like a mental health doctor. And I hadn't talked to him like years, and asked him for like, hey, I'm in some trouble here. Can you help me out? What advice do you have for me? And what was really interesting to me is he said, Nathan, it sounds like you've been through a lot of trauma, and I had never thought of that, especially because I think trauma is such a buzzword. It's like, man, I was in traffic. That was traumatic. It's like, no, dude, that's not traumatic. It's like, you're an idiot. And so, but when he looked at different experiences, like, no, you have to think like you've been through some trauma. And so he said to me, it's like, one thing you could do is these different events that have happened. Go one by one. These different traumatic events, and write down in your notebook, Jesus, what do you want to show me about this? And he said, just write down unedited. And he said, now, of course, you ask the question, how do I know this is Jesus and not, say, the pizza I had late last night? And how I'm able to understand it, being Jesus is, does it reflect the tone, the voice, the character of God as revealed in Jesus when he speaks to people in the scriptures? And just write down unedited, Jesus, what do you want to show me here? The next question was, Jesus, what are the lies I've been believing? And write that down, unedited. And then the third question was, Jesus, what's the truth you want me to know? And then another question was, Jesus, who do I need to forgive? And so I think, for me, that's my closing comment, which is, there's a lot, right? As you and I have talked just a bit about this, there's physical, right? Like there's, like, in terms of resilience, like physically, like, hey, what are you doing with your body? Are you actually like on the couch? Are you just sort of behind a computer? Are you actually getting out and actually sweating? What are you putting into your body? All these different things, which are hugely, we're embodied beings, But I found a lot of it in terms of the emotional baggage that I had. Those questions, because here's the thing: the question I had was, God, where are you? You're supposed to be here right now with me. And I don't feel you right now. I don't see you. So I certainly don't see you. Where are you right now? And also, why are you letting this happen? And when I actually raised that with, this mentor of mine, he said, that's not a bad question, but why don't you change the questions and say, Jesus, what do you want to show me here? Jesus, what's the lie? What are the lies I've been believing? What's the truth you want me to know? Jesus, who do you want me to forgive? And those questions they take a lot of time, especially if you're working through a time of pain. Just want to leave that because I think for me, I found that to be something that really unlocked something for me mentally and emotionally, and I was able to almost just let go of emotional baggage. The pain that we endure in life, obviously, we might have a limp for the rest of our life, but I think that through Jesus, that doesn't mean flourishing is not possible. That wholeness is not possible. I think it's a both and. That we'll have those things that remind us, man, of that was a hard thing. But anyway, I want to share that because I think that is something I've been thinking a lot about, like what makes a person resilient. And I think in that sphere, I'd probably call that just Christ-centered freedom, Christ-centered healing. Because the thing is, we can get healing, quotes there, through self-medicated means, through different things that actually could actually provide some addictive patterns. But what's actually going to give us the healing we want? And I think Christ-centered healing, we're coming to him and saying, Jesus, what do you want to show me about this?
And boy, it takes time too.
Oh yeah. No,
talking about the culture spinning around us, everything's so instant. And it's like, and maybe that's something we want to say to folks is like, coming to Christ and changing your life and seeking to follow him, it takes time. Again, it's not, I want that on Amazon and it's showing up. There's no Amazon Prime gospel. It takes time. It's not easy. Overused term. It is a journey. It's hard, but it's so worth it. It's like anything. It takes time. You gotta work with him. You gotta walk with him. You gotta trust him. And you're not gonna get results overnight. You're just not. It's gonna be. We're just such an instant gratification culture that maybe that's something we need to push against with the faith is like, this is going to take time. But when you don't see results in 30 seconds, this isn't, 30-second abs here. This is it's everything. So be patient. So if you need to take those steps, it's not like you probably didn't journal it out once and you're like, I'm good.
No way.
I'm good. Wow, that was so healing. Thank you. That's it? Oh, $19.99, call this number. I got this course. These are the questions you need to ask to at one time, you're healed.
Right. No.
You might still be journaling that.
Absolutely.
That's way better than what I do, which is just to stuff it down. No, I'm just kidding.
No, I think, but it's a very good point because it's actually not just a boom. That's for me, what it's created is a deeper intimacy with Jesus. And I realize, when you use the word intimacy, it's like, oh no, this is sexualized language about God. All that means, though, what I found to be helpful is into me. You see, it's allowing Jesus. Hey, Jesus, I'm allowing you. I want you. I'm inviting you into a part of my life that maybe I haven't shared with you before. So that's what I mean by intimacy, not this kind of romantic, sexual language as much as actually just basically saying, I want to get personal with you. And it's very much what you said, not this kind of, oh, nice. Okay, that was nice just to get that off my chest. As much as sort of this really habitual thing where it's, I don't know, even last night I was writing, writing in my notebook yesterday, again, Jesus, what do you want to show me about? And it's something else, And it's not just, now it's more, sometimes talking about something painful, but sometimes just talking about things that might be weighing me down. Even a temptation, because that's just a way of, now it's created a different way in which I can relate to God, where sometimes I might have felt stuck or not knowing how to relate to him. And now that those questions just provide a way in which I'm just able to invite him into.
So is that, we should wrap it up here, but is that kind of part of your daily discipline now? Like, hey, this is what I do.
Yeah. I would like it to be, it's not, but it's close to that. Mm-hmm. Like it's pretty, if it's not daily, it's probably at least a few times a week where I'm looking at some of those questions, not all of them, but I will say often the question, Jesus, what do you want to show me about X? And that just, I realize for some people, like, oh man, that's so subjective. It's like, who do I, and it's true, but it's like, what's happening there also, what happens, it's a means by which now I'm communicating with God. And then yes, I do reflect, and I always am then using that, turning that to like, does this reflect actually what I see of God as I know him to be revealed in scriptures? So yeah, I would say.
It's a good word, man. I mean, like doing the hard work of being a disciple it's not one and done. And I'm not, but like there's so many other areas in life where we're kind of catechized into that. We're instructed in it. Oh, it's really easy. Just push this button and this comes out.
Yeah.
And I think, and honestly, I always come back to this and whatever, call me a meathead or whatever. But I think that, being a gym bro has translated for me really. It took me a long time to make the connection, but it's like, hey, if you want to be in good cardiovascular shape, you don't just wake up and run a marathon. Like you can't. Like you have to train for that. And I think we've sort of lost that sense of like, hey, if you're going to follow Christ, you're training. You're a disciple. You're being mentored by a master of the trade. Yeah. You're learning. You are going to stink. But that's okay because he's present.
Yeah.
He feels everything and he knows and he's patient and he's kind and he's a lion, but he's a lamb. So he's here for you. But, you're not going to run a marathon, just wake up and do it one day. You're not going to, whatever your goals are, you're not going to be a jiu-jitsu black belt in your first session. You're not going to build a business that, you're not going to build a real estate business by just showing up and everyone thinks you're God's gift to the Kitsap County. Like you got to work. It's a process. And you got to do a lot of the things that you don't want to do, and a lot of things that you don't want to do are the things that you need to do to become the person that you need to be. Mm-hmm. And we shy away from it because it's like, well, I don't know if I don't really want to do that. That's not pleasurable. That's uncomfortable. I know, but it's in the repetition, in the doing, in the journaling, in those things. That's the freedom. They're not fun. They might even be painful, but that's life. And I think, I've even thought about this, in the church where we're like, someone goes to a youth camp or something and they're like, yeah, I want to follow Jesus. I'm like, well, I don't know if we should baptize them next week. Like, I think they need to be instructed a little bit. Like, who is this guy that you're saying you're giving your entire life to? Like, let's hold on a second. Because you had an experience, and it was rah-rah, and everyone was jumping up and down, and made you feel really good. We need to instruct you a little bit so you know what you're getting into so that you're all in. Like, maybe we're rushing this a little bit. Because you might have an American dream, Jesus, and we're talking about something entirely different. This isn't just an add-on to your life to make your life better. This is an entire perspective on the way that you view everything. So let's hold on a second. That's great. We need to do some instruction here. We're in that point where, even some of the language we're using, people just don't know what we're talking about because we're speaking church language.
Right.
Because that's the culture that we're in, and that's part of it too. You need to learn the language of your people. Yeah. And your people are now the church. Your people are now the body of Christ. And there's a sense in which we do speak a different language. And you need to be a part of that, and you need to learn that different language, and you need to learn that different mentality, and you need to learn those disciplines, and you need to learn grace. It's not going to happen like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we've kind of lost that. And so to your point, like, hey, I need to work through some things. That's part of what it means to be a disciple. You're like, I'm doing it. Why? Because I need healing. Well, I don't know. It's subjective. It's like, yeah, but I'm doing the work.
Yes.
In the freedom, with God's grace.
Yes.
To transform me so that I find meaning and purpose and hope and love and grace and forgiveness. And it's really easy to just be like, yeah, I'm not doing that. That's hard. That hurts. That stings. Yeah, it's not fun training to run a marathon. Or me, I was a halfie. Like, I trained to run a half. It wasn't fun, but I knew I couldn't just wake up and do it.
Yeah.
I had to actually run. And you have injuries, but you have a goal. And the goal is, I want to complete this.
Yeah.
Oh, got to take my ankle out this one. I don't feel like doing it. I'm not feeling it today. Time's ticking, buddy. You can't afford to sit on the couch. This is your long run day. You need to get up and go. I don't want to. It's uncomfortable. Yeah, but there's freedom there, because when you complete that race, it's going to feel really good.
Yeah.
But if you don't, and we're running a race. So,
Yeah.
Nathan, I appreciate you, and I appreciate running the race together, man. And so God bless you and your family and your ministry and this podcast to grow and flourish and give people hope and mentor them. And thanks again, Marty. We appreciate it. We love you, and thanks for letting us invade your house and chat it up. So
thank you, man.
yeah. All right.
Hey.